Well, hello. It's the end of day 3 of my fast, my 30-day to 40-day fast, depending upon how far I go. And I'm wanting to let you know that things are going pretty good. I've been able to resist food, but let me tell you what some difficulties are. Is for the last few days I've been basically staying at home, so all I've had to resist is whatever I've had in my cabinets or refrigerator or whatever I've seen on television or advertising or anything. But today I had a really great time with a friend of mine that we haven't been able to have a really good conversation with in 40 years. See, we've been in separate worlds, and it was so good to get to see him. He recently lost his father, and so he was in the area for taking care of those kinds of the matters with that and the funeral and all that. And we got to spend time catching up, and it was an incredibly good time. I'm looking forward to go visiting him at his home up in Colorado. But on the way there, because I'm out and about now, it's amazing, the restaurants, and I'm physically hungry, but I'm not hurting hungry. Okay, it's just an awareness that I'm not full, which is different than hunger, but there's a little bit of wishing to eat going on inside of me. My body is saying, what's going on right now? What are you doing to me? I'm used to being full all the time. So after on the way to meet with him, I'm driving by all kinds of restaurants. And when you're not thinking about the fact that you're fasting, you're just driving along, listening to music, and then you see something like, oh, I think that'd be good. I think I might drop in there and grab that. Or, boy, that looks good. Or that advertisement there, I'm going to have one of those. And you're always having to say no, 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 no. And it's constant. I mean, it's all the way there. So all the way there that I was dealing with that. And so it does take saying no to self a whole bunch, which is real important at this time of my life, because that's part of what the lessons that I'm teaching in this session, these reports that I'm doing. A lot of it has to do with that, saying no to self. And so I'm going to talk more about that here in a little bit. But just to give you an update, I did not weigh this morning. I just got busy and just didn't do it. So I ended up weighing tonight after a day of not eating, but still, drinking coffee and tea and water and that type of thing. So I probably had a little bit more in me than I would have if I'd weighed first thing in the morning, which is what I'm should be doing to get an accurate kind of view of what my progress is. So the idea is for me to get up in the morning, go to the restroom, take care of all that as much as I can, and then go and weigh. But I didn't get to do that. Got busy, forgot to do it. And so I weighed tonight, and it was 307.9, which, of course, I started off at 317.8. So that's 9.9. That's 10 pounds, basically, I've lost in 3 days. And that's not even, measuring apples to apples. This is after a day. So I probably, in reality, have taken off a little bit more. That's very encouraging to see those numbers. What I'm confused about, what I really don't understand, is why my sugar numbers can continue to be, kind of high. It was 159. It's been hovering around 165. If you know anything about your blood sugar, that's high. Normal is supposed to be up 80 to 100, and so I'm hoping that mine starts to come down, because I'm not putting any sugar in me. I am putting sweet stuff in me, because I'm putting sweet and low, or I'm not supposed to have sweet and low. Don't get on to me about that. But stevia, a little bit of creamer in my coffee. But I don't think I could do this without some kind of sweet or taste. That's what satiates me when I'm wanting. I'm drinking something all the time. So as long as I keep that going, then I'm going pretty good. So I've lost some weight. My blood pressure still remains high. It's like 189 over 99 a while ago. That's way too high. I don't know why that's doing that. I'm taking my blood pressure medicine, but hopefully over some time here, we'll get to see that coming down too. But I'll keep you updated on how things are going. But as far as craving for food is concerned, I do, deal with that as I said. But it's a matter of checking your thinking. The Bible says to take control of your thoughts, to rein them in, and so that's what I have to do. There are moments, like even on the way home late this evening, I was, the thoughts were coming like, just a little bit of this, that wouldn't hurt if I just had a little snack of something, if I grabbed something that is low caloric and it wouldn't hurt. But in reality, it would, because I've made a commitment to do this, and I don't want to cheat on it. I don't want to disappoint you guys, disappoint me. I don't want to disappoint my Lord, who have I committed to do this with. And so I have to check my character at those moments. We're only in day 3, but at those times I got to check my character, and I also have to remind myself of the outcome, because I'm feeling better. I really am physically. I'm not as stuffed and bloated like I mentioned last night. I can walk. I can already walk better. I'm not getting as much pain just with the 10 pounds that have come off. But it's not anywhere near where it needs to be. But it would be very easy to excuse myself because I'm feeling better. I'll just take a bite. It won't hurt to do that. And that becomes a very slippery slope, because I've told you before that I'm much better off making no decisions as I am to try making decisions. So if I start to try to decide what I can eat and what I can't, right now at this point, if I taste something that I really like, I will tend to just keep eating it, keep going, and it satisfies for the moment, but I just want more and more of it. And when I get into that mode, it's hard to stop. I mean, it's like an addiction to food, and so I'm having to just cold turkey it, and say no decisions whatsoever. So the only thing I'm doing is drinking water, tea, and coffee. That's all I'm got going right now. I do have some soft drinks that I may drink some of, but primarily I'm trying to stay cleaner than that. But whatever I have to do to keep food from going in, through these lips is what I'm doing. So any suggestions about that, let me know. I have to remind myself of the goal. Matter of fact, when I weigh in the morning, my scales are sitting right in front of a full mirror. So not only do I weigh and see the number, but I look at my body, and that's a commitment right there. When I look at what I'm working with right now and how far off the mark I've gotten, then it reminds me to keep on going. So that's where I am on day 3 as far as the fast is concerned. And this kind of goes into the subject that I want to talk about with you. I've mentioned it already a couple nights. It's just such a big deal for me that I've had to learn over the last few years. And I want to talk about the idea of surrender, or the idea of letting go, the idea of dying to self. One of the things that our Lord said is, and I mentioned this last night, but I'm going to go a little bit more into it. Is He said, "Whoever wants to be my disciple," in other words, if you're going to follow me, you got to deny yourselves and take up your cross daily. Daily, and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, and whoever loses their life for me will save it. And we talked about the paradox of that. But I want you to see what he's saying. He says, take up your cross daily. Cross is an instrument of death. So you denying him myself, that I have to follow him, and by dying to self daily. That's a requirement to follow him. Whoever wants to be my disciple, he says, must, the word is must. Deny yourself and take up your cross daily and follow me. So as I give these lessons, and I'm thinking in terms of what I want to pass on to my kids that are all grown now, but someday may have grandkids. This is a lesson that I would really hope that you would learn early in life, because we are driven so much in this world by what we can achieve, how much money we can make, how much the house, the cars. We always say those things, but trying to give it ourselves into a comfortable position, and all that is serving our own wishes and desires. Now, I'm not saying we can't have goals to move towards having things, but if that drives us, then there is a real problem being able to follow Christ. In the book of Colossians, Paul says that if you've been raised with Christ, in other words, we have been raised up with him in salvation. He says, seek the things that are above, where Christ is seated at the right hand of God, and set your minds on things that are above, not on things that are on the earth. Jesus mentioned this specifically when he said that we shouldn't put our treasure into things of this world that rust and that the moth can get to. So he's talking about the things of this world that we can focus on. But notice what he says. It's seeking the things that are above, not on things that are on earth. And then he goes to say this, for you have died. Notice that when we become a follower of Christ, that idea of death, dying, comes back. And then he says, for your life is hidden with Christ. That kind of reminds me of the idea of being dead and then being buried, because we're hidden away, but we're hidden away with Christ. Remember, he was hidden away in the tomb. And then he goes on to say, we're hidden with Christ in God, but when Christ, who is your life, appears, he didn't say that Christ, who has a life that you should try to ascribe to be like. He said Christ is our life. So our life is no longer ours. He's our life. He says, then when Christ, who is your life, appears, then you will also appear with him in glory. So there's the picture of the resurrection. We're died, we're hidden away, and then we have life because his life is our life. And then he goes on to say that, kind of describing what this means, he says, put to death, once again the idea of death, what is earthly in you. And he mentions some things: sexual immorality, impurity, passions, evil desires, covetousness. And he says that's idolatry. Now that's an interesting thing to say, because he's saying that these things, notice every one of them is self-serving. It's about satisfying your sexual desires, your impurely, in an immoral way, being impure, the passions we have, the evil desires, wanting other people's things. He said all of that is idolatry. It's not just simply sin. It's to the level of putting something else in the place of worship. And then he goes on to say, but now you must put them all away. And he lists anger, wrath, malice, slander, and obscene talk from your mouth. Notice once again, anger, there has to be an object of anger. So wrath, we have to be upset at something or someone to have wrath. Malice, we have to have somebody that we want to talk bad about and slander, he says. So all of these things are directed towards seeking ourselves, putting ourselves above others, and being willing to put others down in some kind of way, or to take it on ourselves to be angry. Anger is simply meaning that we think that somebody has taken something that's ours, that we have a right to. And so anger is a response to that. Now, so notice how all these things are about satisfying ourselves and our own desires. And he says that has to die. So what leads to these kinds of sins are putting ourselves on the throne. And it shows up by what you emphasize in your life, what you focus on. And he says, so see that these things are put to death. But then he goes on to say, a little bit later, he says, put on then. He said, put to death these things, but put on these things as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved. And listen to this list. Compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience, bearing with one another. And if anyone has a complaint against another, forgiving them as the Lord has forgiven you, so you must also forgive. So notice that this list that we're supposed to put on has to do with our relationships with others in terms of putting them in a spot that is above us. We are to have compassion towards people. These are all about relationships. Compassion, kindness, being humble. In other words, not thinking that we're above anyone else. Meekness, which is the opposite of anger. It's being controlled. It's not being weak. It's being controlled. And patience, bearing up with one another. Having patience with one another. Putting up with each other. Forgiving each other. So this whole description of what it's like to follow Christ is about the idea of surrendering the things we think that we're owed. So I want you to think about that. That extends, and one of the things I've learned, in the last few years is that extends into things that we even think are good. Let me talk with you about something that Chuck Swindoll is one of the great preachers of the last 50 years or even longer. He was in conversation with Corrie ten Boom. Now, Corrie ten Boom was a victim of the Nazis. She's a Dutch watchmaker who later became an author and a speaker, but it was because she and her family helped to hide and rescue Jews that were being sought. And then eventually she was caught. She lost family by the Nazis. She was put in a concentration camp. And she spent years there trying to encourage those around her. And Chuck Swindoll was talking with her, and one of the things she said to him, she says, I've learned in my years that we must hold on to things loosely. Always hold things loosely. She said, because the more we love the ones, and she's talking about even our family and our kids, the more we love them, the more we tend to want to hold on to them tightly. And it will hurt when the Father pries our fingers from them and takes them from us. Holding on to even our children, our relatives, our family, our fathers, our mothers, thinking that it's unfair, that we deserve to have them in our life. She says, hold them loosely. She experienced what it's like to lose family, and she had to learn to hold them loosely so that the Father won't pry our fingers. Because even those things can become idolatrous to us. So what does surrendering mean? this death of self. It's not. It's surrendering any sense of entitlement, that we're owed anything, that we deserve anything in this life. I've been going through counseling for the last several years, and one of the things that the counselor has said is you deserve this. You deserve this kind of life. You deserve this thing. And I concentrated on that idea, and I came to the conclusion that that's not correct. I don't deserve anything. I don't deserve to have the life that I'd hoped to have. I don't deserve. Now, deserve is the word, because deserve means I am good enough to be owed these things. I'm good enough to have earned them. Another thing we must surrender are our expectations, our plans, surrender our possessions, our careers. What I mean by that is this. I had an idea of the way life is supposed to be, and I had this deal with God, that he was going to bless me because I was going to be this good Christian guy. And when life didn't turn out that way, when I ended up married to a lady who had a terrible disease, and I ended up having a life that was full of depression and anxiety, and having to take care of her, and the bitterness and resentment that grew in me. My life wasn't supposed to be like that. When I lost a wife, when I recently lost a son, life is not supposed to be that way. But one of the things I have to release is the idea of supposed to. My second wife decided that the marriage with me was not going to make her happy, and happiness became the thing that drove her. And she was seeking the bliss of a relationship, and so she ended up leaving me for other people. The search was on for her. And I found that so destroyed me. I've plunged into this incredibly deep depression. So much that my second-born son moved all the way from where he was working in College Station after he had graduated. He's a proud Aggie. But when he had to move in with me back here in Northeast Texas because he was afraid for my own safety. I was so depressed and so angry, and my faith was so challenged because I had this sense of I was entitled to a different life. I was supposed to. We had a deal. There are no promises that our life are going to be the way that we want them to be. As a matter of fact, we're promised that we're going to have difficulty. We're going to have trouble in life. Well, I was hoping to be the exception to that. So I sought people to pray for me. I called these prayer lines that you can call, just wishing that they would pray that my wife would stop what she's doing and come back to me and change her heart. It's all about changing her, not me. And on more than one occasion, the people that I was praying with said, I think that God is wanting to reach you. One of the reasons your marriage may not be working out right now is because your marriage has become more important than he is to you. Oh gosh, I got mad at that. Oh my gosh. But what I learned over a couple of years really is that I had to let go, let loose. Otherwise, his grace could not flow to me. I was holding on to things that were more important to me than my relationship with him. And God will let a marriage stop if that marriage has become an idol. And that's what I had to learn. I had to learn that he is more important, and my relationship with him is more important. And I have to die to all those expectations, all those feelings of this is the way life should be. All my should-bes had to die. And what was replaced over time with that was just grace from God. To be grateful. I could not imagine when I was in the depths of that time having anything to be grateful for. But as I begin to just let go of things, my expectation is to say, God, I'm releasing it all to you. Whatever happens, happens. And you're still by my side. You're still there with me. I had encouragement from friends that was an amazing thing to get. I was so grateful for that. And I ended up going to a men's group and just pouring my heart out. And they listened and didn't judge me. And so I started to receive it when I became available and started making things loose in my hands. Grace began to flow. There's a preacher named Joseph Prince who talks a lot about grace. And he says that God's grace is always flowing to us. But if you could imagine the grace of God coming through pipes, and we're so much wanting God's grace, we're desperate for God's grace, that we're anxious and we're worried, and we hold on to those pipes, and we end up choking off God's grace flow by holding on so tightly. So when you release and just receive, and it's not about my effort, it's not about how good I can be. God's grace is not earned. It is just simply a gift from him. And when I've learned to do that, I've learned that I can have results like freedom. There's much more freedom in not being owned by your things, by your expectations. When the more you have, the more it has you. So when you stop trying to chase after all that, there's freedom. And then there's a peace that it's all in his hands and not mine. And I can breathe. Took a long time to get there. So I'm hoping that you have a much shorter journey to that realization. But following Christ is not just simply saying, hey, I believe in you, that you died and rose again. That's true. It is that. But in Romans 9, it says that if with your mouth you proclaim that Jesus is Lord, the idea of him being Lord, is the thing that we cop out on. Because we have to surrender to our Lord. He's in charge, not us. So as I go through day 4, I'm already past midnight and starting on day 4, going to go to bed pretty soon. I will be thinking about what next kind of lesson to offer to you. And I know this is a long one, but I'm hoping that it does bless you somehow. And what I'd like you to do, please comment on my videos that are where they're posted on Facebook or YouTube or whatever. Comment. Let me know what you think. Give me your feedback. Pass this along. Share it with others. I'd love to see if this can bless other people, or if it does. This is for my good. I'm trying to help myself and encourage me, but if it does seem to have some kind of value, pass it along. I appreciate it, and I'd love to hear from you. Your comments, your observations, your experiences. Please give me that feedback so I can read your stories as well. And until tomorrow evening, after I've gone through day 4, God bless and good night.